Hello and welcome to episode 182 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill.
Yep,
and
182.
We'll start off with our NBA coverage today. And I was talking offline with Jason, and there's a lot of stories in the NBA this week. My lead-in is the way that Dort covered James Harden and helped foul him out. And Dort really shut him down. James Harden only made 3 baskets with Dort guarding him. And then what I really liked, though, is that every time James Harden would make one of his patented moves, Dort had a counter. He knew what to do. He knew not to ever go into him. He always knew to go away when Harden leans in. But he was still able to keep his balance. So he wasn't like Harden would make a move to get him off balance and then go around him. He could go around him and he could shoot over him. So it was I thought it was really well done. And then that overtime period with Harden out of the game, the Thunder just dominated that period. So I'm really excited about Game 4 today to see if, a couple things, to see if A, Russ comes back, and B, to see if Dort really is the kryptonite to James Harden, or if that was a one-game thing. But I'm excited to watch that game. I'm really fired up to watch that game.
Yeah, the thing about Harden is he's obviously one of the most brilliant offensive players we've ever seen.
No question.
But I do feel like, and I've seen this throughout his career, like sometimes he's so focused on doing his little tricks and getting the calls that he doesn't take the shot. Like he's more focused on, I'm going to kick my legs out, fall down, make sure I get contact and try to get the call than I am on actually just making the basket. Just go score, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and again,
he shoots a lot of free throws.
He shoots a lot of free throws, and I feel like he definitely gets the quote-unquote superstar call, but I've always been annoyed, and again, we bashed Houston and James Harden on this podcast enough that people have heard it probably a million times, but since we're talking about it again, like, it seems like if everybody knows what he's doing, including the referees, don't let him do it. Like, if you know he's the one initiating the contact, kicking his legs out, don't give him that call. Superstar or not, give him the crab dribble, give him the extra step on the step back, give Giannis his whatever you want to give Giannis. But yeah, if you know he's adamantly breaking the rules and essentially flopping, and NBA had a big flopping problem they didn't like, don't let him do it. And it's nice to see that Dort seems to have, studied Harden like a fighter and been like, well, I know what all your moves are.
That's a good analogy, Jason. That is exactly what it's like. It's like a fighter that knows, has watched a lot of film and understands the fighter's best moves and is already prepared to counteract it. That's a good analogy.
Yeah, and he's like, you're going to go left? He's like, I'm ready for your left. He's like, I know where you're going to, and Harden's been, so successful doing the same things over and over again that he's going to have to adjust.
No, absolutely. Well, let's talk about Dallas.
LUKA is just absolutely phenomenal. Like,
absolutely.
Sprained ankle, Crispus is out of the game. You already won your one game in the bubble, and he just put that team on his back and was like, we're not losing. And, you look at those baskets in overtime. He scored the last 7 points with Kawhi Leonard on him, one of the best defenders in the NBA. And they could do nothing to stop. What, he had 43, 17, and 13?
Ridiculous.
Including...
And he wasn't 100%.
No, and including, 28-foot step-back 3 to win the game? Down 1?
I would say a flyback 3.
Yeah, just...
That was incredible, that shot. As evidenced by all of the other NBA players on social media giving him blood for that shot.
Well, I want to stick with LUKA with the big story this week. You saw the Montrezl Harrell thing, right?
Yeah.
I thought the guys on TNT did a really nice job.
Some of our people might have... Why don't you go ahead and elaborate on it a little bit, because some of our people might not be that aware of it.
In the end of game, or sometime during game 3, sort of towards the end, Montrezl Harrell called him, a B-ass white boy. I know I didn't say bitch and said ass, so I'm just going to say them both now. But it prompted a discussion about, and I thought Kenny, Charles, Shaq, and Ernie, who are often phenomenal. Like, if you want to go watch their discussion of it, it's really worth hearing. They sort of hit it from all angles. They talk about, first off, Shaq is very big on explaining, like, look, when you're in the heat of battle, when you're in the gym, and you and I both played a lot of sports, and we both have, I would say, very aggressive
Yes.
sports personalities.
We
No, we have definitely said some things that we don't mean and said things in a very mean way. So, I mean, I completely understand that. But Kenny was pointing out, like, if we're all going to change and start making these changes, like, that's, well, it's not racist because of the power element. Like, there is an element of race to it where you're just like from, going back to Larry Bird and some of the comments about him and Dirk Nowitzki and just sort of this, which again, it's a difficult subject to even discuss. But if you look on YouTube and just look up TNT, it's worth hearing. Because I thought they all sort of talked about it from a very good angle. Of course, Charles Barkley, who I think has just been on fire with his commentary lately, had some really good things to say as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you're coming down on the N word, you got to come just white boys, not much different than the N word, and you got to understand that that's it. And you got to figure out what you're going to be. If you're going to be all in on social justice, be all in on be all in for everybody.
And again, it's and you can. Intent obviously is still a big thing, and I think that's one of the areas that people sort of forget, especially with some of the older generational people. And I'm not giving them an excuse, but when they say something ignorant, it's a better chance to educate rather than get mad at. But Montrezl Harrell was clearly saying it in I don't know if derogatory is the right word for it, but he was meaning it as an insult, not as just.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to talk about was the lovable Boban, and I saw him on TNT with Shaq and Kenny and Charles, and he seems to just have this. And when you watch LUKA hit that big shot, I mean, obviously the whole bench was going crazy. But as soon as he went back in the locker room, did you watch the clip?
No, I didn't see it.
His teammates were obviously.
The last shot.
Yeah, his teammates were going crazy for him, and the first thing he did is get a big old hug from Boban. And then I'd already watched the interview earlier with Boban, with Shaq, and Charles Barkley, and they just seemed completely taken by him. Just talking about how much it seemed like it was a very genuine, like, we love this guy. And it got me thinking, back to some of the analytics thing, and just, there's not a category or a number that can ever describe what a Boban is to a team. Like,
no, you're right.
There's no way to.
That's an intangible.
It's an intangible. And I mean, I sort of, I work in a field where we have people coming in and coming out. And you can have some directors that are incredibly talented. I mean, obviously all the directors on our show are incredibly talented. But there's some that have just got this warm personality that it just, you watch, like, the entire crew lights up. They've got a pep in their step. They know that, like, this guy is their friend. He remembers everybody's name. He asks them questions from the last time he was here about their families, things you would never think somebody would remember. And I'm not going to give any names because it's not really that important. But that, if you've got somebody that just lifts your team up in a positive way. Like, there's no way to put it, a wins above replacement, or, this guy's a +3 wins over the course of the year. Because I feel like Boban, there's no way to do that. But it just strikes me as you look at that Dallas locker room, like chemistry, which you can't put a price on, and a guy that just lights up, and he's the guy everybody hugs and everybody goes to. And there's something about that that's really it's hard to quantify, but it's really important in a workplace or on a team, obviously. I'm sure you've been in the same situation.
I really like this Mavericks team. I like Porzingis on this team. I like LUKA. I like the mix of players on that team.
And you look, a guy like Trey Burke, who was a pretty high pick, 6 or 7 years ago, and he played phenomenal, and he's been great for them. And it just, some guys in the right situation. It was nice seeing, why can't I remember Curry's actual name? Young Curry. Not Steph Jr., but it's another guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's really committed
Steph Curry. Yeah.
Seth. S-E-T-H.
Yeah, he's really coming.
He's come in with, he looked good last year. He looks even better this year.
And that's really great. I mean, it's great for the Curry family, obviously, but it's just great to see him and just that whole team. It does feel like, Porzingis is still not 100% healthy, obviously, because it sounds like there's some knee issues, and you always worry about 7'3" knee, foot, leg, all those sorts of things. But it does feel like, as good as Trey Burks and Seth Curry and some of the other guys on that team are, it feels like they're one player away. And I don't know who they could possibly get or bring in or what they need, but just like that one other guy, Because otherwise, they're really fun. They're hard not to root for.
Like it. And remember, my MVP pick in the beginning of the year was LUKA.
Yeah, and I think he finished, or they haven't announced that yet, have they? No.
No, they announced the bubble team, but they didn't announce the whole thing, I don't think.
Well, I know he made the top.
It's a TV show they did, remember?
Yeah.
They do a TV show, NBA award show. They'll probably do it then. But he was my pick for MVP, but I know that the playoffs don't count. But it's unfortunate because this is a team that a lot of people haven't seen until now.
Right.
And he really is, he's unbelievable. And I think he's really making a couple teams that passed on him in the draft, especially AE Sacramento, look bad.
Because he went fourth. Let's not forget, fourth.
Yep.
So, and I mean, you looked at DeAndre Ayton and the Suns with their 8-0 in the bubble, and you already had a guy that, you know, that sort of needs the ball in his hands, and Ayton looks like he might, a hometown guy that might, I mean, LUKA's still probably going to have a better career, but you could justify the Ayton pick.
Yeah, Ayton looked better this year than he did his rookie year.
Yeah.
He definitely looks much better. But I still, at the time, you have to look at the ceiling. And LUKA's ceiling was much higher than any player in those first 6 or 7 picks, I thought.
And it seemed like that was the general consensus, at least in the media GMs, who aren't really GMs, but they were all like, LUKA has a chance to be a generational player. Some of these other guys could be like multiple-time all-stars. So how do you pass up, the generational talent? And 3 teams did. Dallas did not. So
it's interesting, there's always comparisons to Dirk. I think he's going to be better than Dirk, which is a big statement, but I think he's going to be better than Dirk because he's got more of a, what was I going to say? More of a NBA game.
Yeah.
Dirk had a European game. LUKA has an NBA game.
And LUKA has, not to do player comps. We talked about a guy already that, LUKA does a lot of the same stuff Harden does. He just isn't getting quite the calls to get to the line as frequently. Like, you figure for a guy that had the ball in his hands, I think 77% of the possessions yesterday, he only went to the free throw line, I think, 8 times. Or 4, he had 8 free throw attempts, which is pretty low for a guy that has the ball in his hands that often. But he's got he's got veteran stuff. Like, he does the pacing. Like, he knows when to speed up, go down. When you watched at the end of game 2, when he just sort of barreled through Kawhi Leonard and put that, the shoulder on his chest to get the space, like, his game is incredible.
Yeah, that series, I think that series is going to go 7. Unless somebody gets hurt again. But I think it's going to go 7.
I'd be very happy to have it go 7. You do look at
that one, and like I said, I love the Oklahoma City-Houston series. For all intents and purposes, the Magic won a game, and that's what they were going to do, and that's going to go 4-1.
I think the Lakers.
I think the Heat.
Yeah.
I think the Heat will sweep.
Toronto already swept. Boston swept. And Boston, now we look at Philadelphia. It sounds like Brett Brown is finally going to not come back as a coach, which is good for them.
Yeah, I would say that was a sweep equals a coach firing and maybe a major trade.
That's what I'm going to say right now. Like, again, they didn't play together because Ben got hurt this time. But you got 2 albatross contracts in Tobias Harris and Al Horford that are just, I think you could say after John Wall, they might be the 2 worst contracts in the NBA. Like, I don't know how you would get off those contracts if Al Horford is clearly past his prime and he's owed a ridiculous amount of money. And Tobias Harris played like he's a superstar and he's not. Then you got Josh Richardson on the hook for 2 more years, but I think that contract's way less offensive. But I don't think you'd want to give away assets to get rid of those guys.
No, I don't either. But they're in a, they've essentially missed a window.
Yeah. And again,
maybe we're being too optimistic. Maybe they never had the window. Maybe the media thought they had a window. Maybe they never did have a window. Maybe they just weren't that good.
Well, I think the problem is, Joel Embiid still looks winded every time he plays a basketball game. And as dominant and as talented as he can be, like, the fact that this is year 5 or 6 for him, and he still hasn't really made the commitment to his conditioning, you got to wonder about the guy long term. I know, like, Shaq will criticize him, Barkley criticizes him, and he always takes that really well. Like, he doesn't go Jimmy Butler and try to, like, scorch the earth on those guys. He's very respectful, and he's like, yes, you're right, I need to step up, I need to do my stuff. And then it just never seems to materialize. And then if you're Philly, if I'm Philly, I'm definitely putting the feelers out to see what I could get for either one of those guys. Because again, they've never been a great fit. So
I think you have to really, a new coach, coming in, the general manager inherited all those guys. So I mean, you got to figure out what he's going to do. The general manager was hired after the coach and after the players, so we'll have to see what he wants to do. But I'm sure he's got a plan.
I know part of
the have one. He'll be making one this week.
Yeah.
How about Denver, Utah?
I mean, Donovan Mitchell's just been outrageous in these playoffs. He scored 50 in 2 games now, which is done by, I think, only by Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson in the playoffs. I was surprised Wilt wasn't on that. Or maybe they did that before Wilt. I don't know.
Do they play again tonight? Is tonight game 4 for them?
Tonight is, I think is it game 4? Yeah, is it game 4 or game 5? Is it 2-1?
The Rockets Thunder is 2-1, and I thought Utah was 2-1, or they 3-1. Did they play yesterday?
I think they played yesterday. I think it's 3-1. Yeah, because they won yesterday. Because yesterday was the double 50-point game. Jamal Murray had 50.
It's 3-1. The Lakers are 3-1, right?
Lakers, I think the Lakers played today to go up 3-1.
They played today. That's right. They played the last game today.
But it looks like after game time. It looks like after that first game that the Lakers have sort of, realized they've got the 2 best players on the floor and they're playing like it, and I think they're going to win. Now, Lakers-Rockets is a fascinating series to me. I'd be very excited to watch that series, especially if Russ is back.
Yeah, I don't think Oklahoma City can stay with the Lakers. I don't think that's a good matchup.
No.
But I think, like I said, I think this is a good matchup.
It is. It's a very good matchup.
Russ. With Russ there, we'd have to see what it is, but it's not. It's very even right now. I kind of like. I really enjoy watching it. I'm excited to watch it in 30 minutes. Yeah,
I mean the NBA is. I mean, even the game. I mean, maybe just because it's been so long without live sports for the longest time. But it's been very exciting. That all the basketball's been great. I've enjoyed every game.
On the NHL side, I was excited to see the Lightning escape. And even though they swept, they won 4-1. I still was a little panicky because they didn't make it out last year out of the first round. So I was happy to see the Lightning come out.
Yeah.
But now they're playing Boston. Boston's up 1-0 on them, and Boston's another team that's not a great matchup for the Lightning.
No, matchups are always very so important. We have some weird NFL news. Earl Thomas, Pro Bowl safety, only 31 years old, signed with the Baltimore Ravens, Super Bowl contender. He gets in a fight with his fellow defensive back on the practice field. They send him home, and 24 hours later, they cut him. They got their leadership council together and said, we don't want anything to do with this guy.
Which is, a statement about how they feel about that team and how they feel about each other, because that's one of the most talented players in the NFL.
Yeah, and you're a team with you're
going to say we'll be better off without him.
Yeah,
and try and win a Super Bowl. That's a statement.
And they want to bring back Tony.
That chemistry had to be horrible.
Oh yeah, and they want to bring back Tony Jefferson, who is still on the free agent wire, but nobody's even signed to replace Earl Thomas, who's supposedly have suitors in the Cowboys, 49ers, and almost every other contender is already a suitor for him. So that tells you just how important chemistry. I mean, that's back to the Boban conversation where he seems like the anti-Boban.
Yeah.
That if because again, you're the Ravens. Not only are you a Super Bowl contending team right now, and you got your quarterback on the rookie contract, but you're going to eat $10 million in dead cap money by cutting him, which is not an insignificant amount of money, especially if the cap doesn't continue to grow over the next few years due to COVID. And
well, I don't think the cap's going to grow next year. The cap's going to go down.
Right.
So I think it's going to be more of a hardship for the Ravens.
I've said, now you're making it even tougher on yourself. So, that says a lot about that player. That you're just like, nope, we'd rather not. It's that. That shows you how much, chemistry over talent at some point.
Yeah. Well, the NFL's all over the place on fans. I've seen, the Chiefs are going to have like 13,000 fans. Jerry Jones is still thinking he's going to have 40,000 fans. And the Saints aren't going to have any fans for their first game. And then they're going to play it by ear. The Bucs are still waiting to hear from the stadium authority as to what they're going to do. The Eagles aren't going to have fans at their game. I think the Steelers aren't going to have fans. I'm pretty sure the Steelers are going to have fans because I think the governor of Pennsylvania said no fans.
Yeah.
The Giants and the Jets aren't going to have fans. The Raiders aren't going to have fans. So it's interesting. See where it all goes.
Now, as a consumer of sports, now obviously it's an anomaly and maybe it's something you want to see one time, but I think we both technically prefer the NFL as a TV sport. But would you want to go to a game where you're sitting, where everybody's probably, 15, 20 feet apart from each other? And it's a, 10% filled stadium?
It's hard for me to answer that because I've never had an experience like that.
Right.
So there's part of me that's curious enough that, yeah, I would go just to see what it was like. I'd be curious. I mean, I love the Michelob Ultra courtside in the NBA. I absolutely love that.
Okay.
And I think it's cool that the fans get to be on, that their home team picks out who's going to be on, how it's going to be. I love that. I hate baseball not having anybody. Just the cutouts. I just think it's, that big stadium and everything, and trying to focus on it, it's hard for me. It is. It's hard for me. And the NFL, I don't know. I don't know how it'll be. There really is home field advantage in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
And so not having this, what's it going to do? I mean, no dog pound, none of these things. I mean, it's could be interesting.
And like you said, from a unique standpoint, I want to see what it's like to go to a stadium that's, 20% filled and sit far away from everybody. But I feel like it'd be a weird experience. Because, as we spoke.
It would be odd.
Yeah.
And MLS is coming back with fans this week. They're coming back with limited fans. Like, I think, I don't know if it's 20% or what that is, but they're coming back with limited fans in much smaller venues. So, you can have literally 2,000 people at a soccer game.
And AEW Wrestling, which has already been, they've been performing in a parking lot outside of the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium. I think they're going to have a few fans now from time to time. And I think WWE, who's now in the, the Orlando Magic Arena, the Amway Center, I think they're talking about having limited fans as well.
Yeah. Hey, I want to give a shout out to the Slam Diego Padres.
The Slam Diego Padres.
5 Grand Slams in 6 games.
Yeah.
And they're now in second place in the West and creeping up on the Dodgers, and they got a fun team to watch with Tatis Jr. and a couple of these guys. They're really fun to watch. They're my team that I'm following, other than my woe-begotten Pirates, who just won 3 in a row.
It's true. Speaking of Tatis, what are your thoughts on the unwritten rule of baseball?
I think the unwritten rule is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. If you don't want him to hit, walk him. If you think he's going to stand there automatically because there's an unwritten rule, that's just stupid. What's an agent do? An agent, when the contract comes up, the agent lays out all the stats, right?
Right.
So you're paid based upon your productivity and how you compare with everybody else. So if someone's going to lay one in for you, you want to walk them with the base load or walk them.
Right.
What are you going to do? You're either going to walk them with a base load or pitch them. Okay? So if you want to walk them, walk them. But if you're going to pitch them, then whatever happens, happens. You're trying to get him out. He's trying to take you out. He did. I don't have any problem with it at all. No,
and I mean, luckily, he did. They forced him to apologize afterwards, which I thought was stupid. But social media, which is problematic on some level.
It was way in his favor.
Of course.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
No, and if you're baseball, it just if you're the other team, you're saying there's no way we can come back from 7 runs in 3 innings. Like,
hey, we've seen it before.
We've seen it many times before.
And if you're baseball, this is one of your young stars. If he hits a grand slam, he's going to be on Sports Center.
Yeah.
You get more and more people interested in it. Let it happen.
And I don't understand the thought of like, well, he gets a free pitch on 3-0 because they're up by a certain number of runs. It's like, why would he get that? Like, in what world does that make any sense? Like, it just. And I've always been pro bat flip too. I like the bat flip. Again, you don't want him to hit a home run. Strike him out. Get him out.
Exactly.
And people like personality. I mean, and that's what, and don't take that away. Don't take the exciting moments away. And
Well, speaking of personalities, Major League Baseball announced that the Little League game with the major leaguers next year
yes,
is going to be the Angels and the Indians. And so you know that they were looking for somewhere to promote Mike Trout and get Mike Trout in a situation where he could be on national TV in a different time zone. So I applaud MLB for finally figuring that out. But I got to admit, I'm mystified that a team with Rendon and Mike Trout and some of the offensive players they have could be in last place. They get no pitching at all. They're horrible.
they are.
But I mean, it's a shame. And I applaud Mike Trout for signing with his team and staying loyal. But man, you got to help this guy. You got to get some talent.
Because it seems like certain teams, the New York, Boston, certain teams, the Cardinals, always seem to find the talent. So it's there.
Yeah, it looks like Boston's going to have a fire sale now, though, since they're out of it.
Yeah.
So we'll see where some of those players end up.
It'll definitely be an interesting trade deadline this year, given, the circumstances and the uncertainty of, money situations going forward.
Because, if you're baseball, you know you're going to have fans next year, or when you're going to have fans. And so you've got to cut.
Yeah.
You got to cut those guys. And, because you don't want to be on the hook for those paychecks.
No.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, we both watched Lovecraft County. And I am totally in, and you guys are now out.
We're out. We watched 2 episodes. There's parts of the story, I don't want to give it away. There's parts of the story I really like, and there's parts of the story I really didn't like. And so we're out. But it's right up your alley. You will enjoy it. And if people like a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of supernatural in with the story, this will be right up your alley. The acting is good. The wizardry of the visual effects is pretty good. The settings are good. It just wasn't me. But I'm 69 years old, so it doesn't have to be me. It wasn't made for me.
I will say, that was one of the most action-packed first episodes I've seen in a long time of television.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a much slower burn, because HBO is one of the few places you can have a slow burn show. If you go to Netflix or a normal network, you have to keep everything moving really quick. Whereas I feel like HBO has built up enough credibility and their audience knows what they're getting. You can move a little bit slower,
Sure.
I mean, Game of Thrones, had a lot happen, but it had some very slow episodes, and part of the reason it did so well is that, and people were upset towards the end, is that they got rid of the slow pace and went with just this insanity. But, like I said, if you watch Lovecraft County, you're getting everything you would expect in a Lovecraft story from the in the opening episode. It's not something that's going to be hinted at. You're going to get it. Which I guess, it's called Lovecraft County, so.
Yeah. So it should be, continue to enjoy it. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, and that was probably my best entertainment of the week. Yeah.
Neither of us, did you eat out anyone?
No, we did not.
Well, you saw.
I take that back. I did go somewhere new. I went
what
to
do you got?
Paco's Tacos, which, if you're a New Orleans person, is on Vets. It's sort of near. It's on Vets near the mall and Lowe's and Best Buy. It used to be Poncho's, I think, and now it's Paco's. But it's what they had there that I was intrigued by was the burrito taco. And forgive me if I'm saying it wrong because I'm not the best pronouncer of anything. But the burrito taco is almost like, and put it in the most lamest terms possible, it's like a taco with a dip, but it's like a consomme of like the meat juice that it's cooked in, along with some seasoning. So you're dipping your taco into the meat juice, almost like a French dip of a taco, if you will.
Whoa, there's another good analogy. You're hot with the analogies today. I like that. That actually sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, right. And they had 5 different kinds of meat. And what I really liked is Maria got the tacos. I got the consomme on the side to dip it in. And she said they were really good. But their quesadilla, they use the Chihuahua cheese, which is sort of like a mozzarella, is the closest thing I can think about, if you're wondering flavor-wise. You know, normally with the quesadilla, you sort of make it like a grilled cheese, right? You got your tortilla, your cheese, your meat, and your tortilla, and you flip it, and all that kind of stuff. They put the cheese directly on the grill. Put the meat on top of it. So then they get that sort of char on the bottom of the cheese while they're cooking the tortillas, and they stick it all together. So you kind of get that crispy burnt cheese inside the quesadilla, which I found delightful. So,
all right.
And they have something called a they were out of them at the time, but it's a crepe filled with it's almost like a crepe. Well, it looks like a cannoli, but in a Mexican restaurant with some sort of cheese filling, and then either a condensed milk or a chocolate or a strawberry topping on top of it. It looked really cool. We just couldn't try one because they didn't have any. They were already sold out.
Well, I had 2 food moments, and they were both in my house. So the first one, we had purchased the President's Ranch cookbook from the Bush Ranch, and one of the recipes in it was for cinnamon rolls. And so Mom made the cinnamon rolls this week, and they were to die for. They were really, really good. So I might never have to buy a cinnamon roll anywhere else ever again.
Wow.
And we should have taken pictures of those, and we should have done a video, but we didn't. But we did take a video of my red snapper on the grill.
Yes.
And so if I want to see that, send me an email, and I'll send you the video. Mom shot the video. We did the whole thing like the cooking thing, step by step. But it was delicious. I did a red snapper for me, and I did bronzino for Mom.
Very nice.
And I showed the difference between cooking a whole fish and cooking fillets, cooking fillet fish on the grill. So it was a good video.
Very nice. Very nice indeed. Yeah, and I don't know about
I did place an order on Goldbelly this week. It's coming on Wednesday for some strombolis from Philadelphia.
Okay.
So meatball strombolis and hot strombolis. We'll see how they turn out. But I'm doing my every 2 to 3 weeks. I'm trying to do something on Goldbelly just to liven things up.
Yeah, I think even though I don't think it arrives until late October, I think I'm going to order the New Haven pizza from a Pizza. Because I keep seeing every Food Network keep saying that New Haven, Connecticut is the pizza capital of America, and that the New Haven pizza style is the best pizza style in America. So I feel like this will probably, Goldbelly allows you to try things you'd never be able to try. I mean, not never, but
yeah.
I don't plan on. I can't. Yeah, I don't. It's hard to imagine in my current career or current living situation traveling to New Haven.
Yeah, I can't see it either.
So.
And I had chances to have it in New Haven, and actually have it in Grants, in the food court. I'm trying to which one it is. In underneath Madison Square Garden.
Oh, okay.
They have one of the New Haven pizzas in there, and that's as close as I've come. See,
being in New York City, potentially watching the Knicks would be, but I have no idea when that would happen, especially in the time.
There's a lot of good pizza in New York City.
Yeah.
If you're in New York City, you don't think you got to go to New Haven. I'll tell you that.
Well, according to New Haven and these food people, you got to go there.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting ready to watch my Oklahoma City team in about 10 minutes.
And if you're down here like us in Florida or Texas or New Orleans or any of the other southern cities, we have the 2 hurricanes who seem kind of nasty. So,
Yeah, stay safe. Keep wearing your mask. Keep playing the vote.
Yeah. So until next week, we are out.